moment. I'll continue to let people through as I talk, but welcome and thank you for joining us. Good morning. And I'm Sean Gibb. I'm the Events and Marketing Manager at Pro Manchester. And I'm delighted to welcome you to Business Strategy Made Simple, hosted by Raji Vedanathan, Managing Director at HK Advisory. Following today's session, I'll send out a post-event email, which will contain any post-event collateral. Raji is going to provide the slides. And there'll be some links to other Pro Manchester events and our Pro Manchester YouTube channel where you can watch this and other events back if you've missed anything. There'll also be a feedback form on there. It would be really appreciated if you could take just 2 minutes to fill it out, let us know what you thought. And also, crucially for me, there's a question on there about what you would like to see at future events. So please do let us know, and then we can keep providing the content that you want to see. Just a few points of housekeeping. Please be aware that this webinar is being recorded, and please keep your microphones on mute. Feel free to use the chat function to ask any questions, make any comments, observations, and we'll address those towards the end. And then there'll also be an opportunity to come off mute as well, and you can ask questions directly to Raji. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Raji.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to a Business Strategy Made Simple webinar, and thanks for joining us today. Today, we are going to explore how to develop your business strategy using a simple strategic management tool called the Business Model Canvas. Using the Business Model Canvas, you can easily and quickly plot your business strategy or your idea or concept. I'm not able to go to the next slide. Why is that? Yeah, okay. So it is a great tool because it's very structured and straightforward. And it also gives you insight about your customers, the products and services that you offer, through what channels, and most importantly, how the company makes revenue. So let's go through a brief history of the Business Model Canvas. The Business Model Canvas was developed by Alexander Osterwalder in the late 2000s, along with some co-creators. He's also the co-founder of the company Strategizer. And this is not the only tool that he has developed. He's got a number of strategic management tools. And all these tools are simple, practical, and easy to use. You could visit him at strategizer.com, or please send me an email later and I'll send a link to his website. And he is actually a very simple person. I've met him a few times, and he's ranked #1 management thinkers of our time. And he's the holder of Thinkers 50 Strategy Award. So, and this Business Model Canvas has been adopted widely from entrepreneurs, startups, small businesses, to giants like the Nestle, Procter & Gamble, and Coca-Cola. So in their own words, those speech bubbles say how they have found value in this Business Model Canvas. For many of them, it has helped them to describe ideas, and without the Business Model Canvas or BMC, it would have been very, very difficult. And for some people, and more important during this time, is finding out how they could be disrupted and how vulnerable they are. And some companies have this inertia and they don't want to change. So for them, it has helped to gamble with their ideas and reduce this problem. It's also a great communication tool. Imagine taking it's all plotted on a piece of paper, and having your business on a piece of paper and being able to discuss this with your team or outside with your partners and other people. And for bigger businesses, leaders quickly see their business on one page. So that's quite important to them. And a bit funny is that someone has said it's very simple that even my mother could understand it. Now, I don't think this is offense to any of the mothers in the world, including me. We recently celebrated Mother's Day. It's just to emphasize the simplicity of this business model canvas. So moving on, so for what purposes do business uses business model canvas? 37% of them use it for developing an entirely new business. 27% of them use it for developing a new service within an existing business. And 20% of them use it for strategic reorientation. And 16% of them use it for renovating an old business model. Now, let's take some examples to bring this to life, and let's take examples from our recent times, COVID times. So, example of developing an entirely new business model would be many smaller grocery stores have turned into dark fulfillment centers. So, and they have switched online, their business online, or they have partnered with a bigger supermarket and have become the fulfillment center for them. So next example of new product development is a car manufacturing company developed electric vehicles to spray paint disinfectants in hospitals and shopping malls and other areas, and it's thriving now. An example of strategic reorientation would be that more and more companies are opting for resilience rather than economic prosperity, because it makes sense. We have seen big companies and things collapse of those big companies, and economic resilience seems like a better strategy for this period. And then the last one, renovating an old business model, is simply like introducing technology and making it more efficient. According to a recent survey, COVID's thing is that digital transformation has speeded up so much that it's progressed by several years, and it's here to stay. Example of this would be our own Pro Manchester. I was listening to Sam's podcast the other day, and she was saying how quickly they transformed everything online. And because of this, we are having this webinar today. It's become a possibility. So I feel that this survey was done a few years ago. So that 16% over here would be much higher given this current situation. So you could actually think of where your business lies and what is your priority in terms of this pie chart. Moving on. So let's watch a short video on this. What's a business model canvas?
An organization's business model can be described with 9 basic building blocks: your customer segments, your value proposition for each segment, the channels to reach customers, customer relationships you establish, the revenue streams you generate, the key resources and key activities you require to create value, the key partners, and the cost structure of the business model. But it's not sufficient to just enumerate the 9 building blocks. What you really want to do is to map them out on a pre-structured canvas. This is what we call the business model canvas, a tool that helps you map, discuss, design, and invent new business models. Let's briefly go through the 9 building blocks, starting with the customer segments. These are all the people or organizations for which you're creating value. This includes simple users and paying customers. For each segment, you have a specific value proposition. These are the bundles of products and services that create value for your customers. Channels describe through which touchpoints you're interacting with customers and delivering value. Customer relationships outline the type of relationship you're establishing with your customers. The revenue streams make clear how and through which pricing mechanisms your business model is capturing value. Then you need to describe the infrastructure to create, deliver, and capture value. The key resources show which assets are indispensable in your business model. Key activities show which things you really need to be able to perform well. Partners show who can help you leverage your business model, since you won't own all key resources yourself, nor will you perform all key activities. Then once you understand your business model's infrastructure, you'll also have an idea of its cost structure. So with the business model canvas, you can map out your entire business model in one image. This works for startup entrepreneurs just as well as for the most senior executives.
How was that for you? I think that was a whistle stop tour of the business model. So don't worry, we'll go through this in much more detail. And when you first look at this business model, this might sound like, quite complicated. And you might be thinking, what was that build-up about, all this being simple and easy to use? But believe me, this business model is made of 9 segments, 9 building blocks, and they are related to each other. And it's very logical. And as we progress, you'll know how simple it is. So let's start with the value proposition. So the value proposition is a fancy word for all your products and services that you offer your customer. It is a fancy word because it is the product or services that solves a customer problem or creates the gain for your customers. So when you normally talk about your products, you talk about your product's features, its technology, its superior quality and all that. But it's no longer about your product because your customers don't care about the product. All they want is to solve a problem or fulfill a need. So the second building block is the customer segment. Customers are heart of any business, and without profitable customers, business does not exist. But you need to know your customers. So you need to segment your customers according to their demographics, like age, according to their need, income, behavior pattern, and other attributes. So once you know your customer segments, then you need to decide which customer segments you're going to serve and which customer segments you're not going to serve. The not going to serve is quite important. Otherwise, you'll be serving the wrong customers. So once you've decided which customer segments you're going to serve, then you can develop your value proposition to match your customer needs. So the third one is channel. Channel is simply how you reach how your value proposition reaches your customer segments. Now you can have your own customer segments like your own retail stores, your own sales force, or your own website through which you sell products, or you can partner with customers like wholesalers, affiliates, or with a partner with advertisers. So those are external channels. But you need to know you have to establish the right channels because it helps you first to let your customers know about your products and then for them to evaluate your products. And the next step is for them to make that purchase decision. And once they made the purchase decision, you can then deliver your products to the customers. And then you can also provide post-customer support. So those channels, defining the right channels is very important. Moving on, the fourth one is the customer relationships. So customer relationship is what kind of relationship do you establish with each of the customer segments? And it can vary from very personalized to, on the other end, fully automated. So let's take some examples. Now, personal assistance is where there is a lot of human interactions in your proper retail stores or through emails or phone calls. So there is that human interaction. Dedicated personal assistance is where a customer representative is assigned to a customer. And that happens in high net worth banking, retail banking. So that dedicated service. And so if you want to go that very dedicated, then that's the relationship you want to establish with your customer. Then self-service is where the company doesn't want any interaction with the customer, but they provide all the means so that the customers can help themselves. The next one is automated service. Automated services is a sophisticated form of self-service which combines self-service with automated processes. Nowadays, this automated service is very sophisticated. It's able to understand the customers and their purchase pattern and able to respond to them. So the intelligent bots that are there makes this automation a lot easier. So other type of customer relationship is communities. Many companies have private online communities. Most of the technology products, they come with online communities because they're difficult to use, and then it helps them, the customers, to answer you help each other. One great example is Glasgow and SmithKline. It introduced a weight loss product. And for that product, it had a private online community, so where customers could help and support each other through their weight loss journey. So the last one is co-creation. Co-creation is going beyond the customer buyer relationship and actually co-creating, partnering to develop products. Best examples would be the Apple apps and Google and Android apps. So that's a great example. And actually, Amazon had introduced this co-creation much earlier, like for at least 5 or 6 years earlier, or even that a decade earlier, when it introduced book reviews. So the book reviews help book lovers to choose books, and so that's a great example of co-creation. Moving on, the one is revenue stream. The next one is revenue stream. This is simply how your business makes money through its customer segments. And at first, it may sound like quite simple, but it's not. And there are also different types of revenue streams. So the simplest form is asset sales, that is selling your products, your furnitures, your cars, your big products or small products. It's a one-time sale. And then the next one is usage fees. Usage fees is depending on the usage of your service or product. The best examples would be like a mobile user, they charge you depending on the time used, and hotels, they charge on the number of nights stayed by a customer, by a guest. So the higher the usage, the higher the usage fees. A subscription fees is an access to a service or product. So best examples would be gym, their monthly and yearly subscription fees. Lending, income through lending is lending. Car rentals would be a great example of lending, and licensing would be licensing patents and copyrights. So there are a number of examples for licensing, even for COVID or vaccinations, they have a licensing right. Then brokerage is through income through being an intermediary service. Best example would be real estate brokers, and advertising, income through advertising other products. So and income through that. Google does that, Facebook, so they get the income revenue stream from advertising. So yeah, so far what we have looked at is all the right-hand side of the business model canvas. So it's your value proposition, the customer segments, the relationship with you, which you have with your customer, and the channels through which you serve your customers and through which you get revenue, obviously income. Now, in order to support this value proposition, you need the infrastructure, and that's the left-hand side of the business model. And so we'll look at this one by one, look at each of this building block one by one, starting with key partners. So key partners are all the network of suppliers and partners that the company has in order to deliver its business model. And in the simplest form of partnership is the buyer-supplier relationship, and more complex form of partnership is joint ventures and sometimes partnership with non-competitors, and also partnership with competitors as well. The best example again would be, our latest example would be the vaccine production, where we have partnership between the scientific community, the pharmaceuticals, the different governments, other manufacturer, glass manufacturer, and it is a complex partnership which has been very, very successful. And because of it, we are here today, and thanks to it that we have a future. So the next building block on the left-hand side is the key activities. Key activities are the activities in relation to are the activities that will help you deliver your value proposition. Now, to understand what your key activities are, you need to understand what are the key activities for your value proposition, what are the key activities for your distribution channel, what are the key activities for your establishing your customer relationship, and what are the key activities for generating revenue. So once you know that, then these are your key activities. One thing is quite important about the key activities is they have to relate to these. Otherwise, you may think you are doing some key activities, but they will not add value to your business. So it's quite important to know your key activities are related only to those, what you're delivering, your value proposition, your distribution channel, your revenue generation, and customer relationship activities. So one more thing for key activities is like, so the key activities differ for different organizations. For example, for Microsoft, software production is one of its key activities. For Dell, PC manufacturer, supply chain is one of its key activities. And if you take a company like McKinsey, then problem solving is one of the key activities. So obviously key activities differ for different companies. Then the next building block is the key resources. Key resources are the assets your company requires to deliver your value proposition. So they can be in the form of financial resource, physical resource, intellectual resource, and human resources. So physical resources are your manufacturing facilities. If you're a manufacturer, your machines, your furnitures, your point of sale system, everything physical is anything which is visible is your physical property. And then intellectual property are your brand, your copyrights, then your customer databases. They are all examples of intellectual property. So for physical property examples would be the more high on physical property would be your Walmart and other kind of your Tesco's are great examples of physical property. Intellectual property examples would be more the creative industries, and finance is just the cash, how you have your cash in hand, your cash in bank, your investment in stocks and shares are your financial resources. And human resources are different from intellectual resources, is that all companies require human resources, but for some industries, human resources are more important than others. For example, the scientific community, the creators, the teaching communities, where human resources are quite important. So the last building block is the cost structure. The cost is the cost of all your key activities, the key resources, and your partnership makes the most important cost for your business. And so some businesses are cost-driven and some businesses are not cost-driven. So cost-driven businesses focus on minimizing cost. So what they do, they have the leanest cost structure, and they have low value propositions. They automate as much as possible, and they do extensive outsourcing. So examples would be No Frills Airlines. And then there are other businesses for which they are value-driven businesses, and they don't focus so much on cost. And so they have premium value proposition, dedicated services. So examples will be the whole 5-star hotels, where they have dedicated service and attention, and obviously they make it through high cost, but then their proposition is higher value and not cost. In that case, they're not that much worried about the cost. So that's all the building blocks. And now, so you can see how they are related, actually. So this is like in a diagram, but you can see the value propositions. Through the value propositions, you have a customer relation, you establish a relationship with your customers, and then you deliver this value, the value proposition through the identified channel. Sorry, yeah. And then you have your partners to support your key activities, and you have activities and your key resources, the whole infrastructure to support this value proposition. So through the value proposition delivery, you make income, and the infrastructure costs you. So that is the cost. And obviously the income should exceed the cost. Otherwise, it's not a viable business model. And that's what we see here. So if you have got a great value proposition, and you're serving the right customer segments, and you've got a great relationship with your customers, then your products becomes very, very desirable. But it's not enough if it's desirable. You've got to make it practical. So it has to be feasible, and you need your key partners, key resources, and key activities to support that. Otherwise, it's not feasible. So again, your value proposition can be desirable, feasible, but it'll not be viable if your revenue streams and cost structures do not match. If you have your cost structure is high and your revenue stream is low, then it's not a viable business model. So it's simply another way of slice and dicing and seeing the kind of how the business model canvas can be used. So this one is another video of case study. So you can see a practical application of the business model canvas.
Okay, as a first example, let's define the business model of Nespresso. What's the value proposition of Nespresso? It's to offer the best coffee at home, as good as the coffee in the best cafe in Roma. That's the idea. And this value proposition consists of mainly of two different products. The first one is the Nespresso machine. The other one are the capsules. They have two different distribution strategies for reaching the customers. First, for the machines, They use the retailers for reaching the households and eventually the businesses. And this generates a revenue coming from the machine sales. But most of this revenue goes directly to the machine manufacturers, which are key partners for Nespresso since the beginning. For the Nespresso capsules, the story is a little bit different. They use their own channels. They use the mail order for reaching the customers, or the website, or you can also find now, much more recently, the Nespresso stores that you have in most of the big cities in the world. And those channels is a key resource for Nespresso because they have this ability to reach the customers through those direct distribution channels. When you bought a machine, you have to come back to Nespresso for buying the capsule. So it means that you have a kind of lock-in strategy if you want. So it means it's much more difficult for you to change your company if you want to buy those capsules, because you have to buy the capsules of Nespresso to put those capsules in the machines. And you can reinforce this using, for example, the Nespresso Club for keeping the relationship with the customers. And you can have this kind of strategy because also you have on your resource size the patterns. And based on this, you have the repetitive sales coming from those capsules, which is the main revenue for Nespresso. This is for the right-hand side, the value side of the business model. On the left-hand side, means on the backstage, if you want, you have different resources and activities. One of them is the coffee. You can reach the coffee, and so it means that you have some partnership with the coffee growers, which is normal for the Nestle business. And when you buy those coffee, you have to put that inside the capsules. So it means that Nespresso want to keep this manufacturing activity. So it means you have one of the main key activities, which is the production, and they have the production facilities able to produce millions of capsules per day, and it has a cost. You have some other activities, which is related to the marketing and branding activity and branding resources, which has a cost. And the last activity is the distribution or the logistic, because you have to reach those customers with this direct distribution. So it means that you have the third activity, which is the distribution activity, which has a cost, which is the cost related to this logistics activity. This is the business model of Nespresso.
Okay, so that was Nespresso's business model. Now let's do Google's business model in the simplest form. Let's do this together. So start with Google's value proposition is just find or search, the search facility that it offers. And then its customer segments are internet users, and the channel that Google uses is google.com. The relationship that it has with its customers is completely automated. So when we do a search, we don't have any relations with any of Google's employees. So it's completely automated. And the revenue stream for Google from this is nil. So they don't get any income from the searches that we do. So how then is Google profitable? And then let's park that question. But the key activities are research and development and managing infrastructure. The key resources are its data centers and intellectual property, the brand, and other things, and its key partners with distribution centers and equipment manufacturers, and obviously the data centers and the research and development, all this activity cost. But in the first customer segment, the most important thing is that Google does not make any revenue out of this. So then it's got the next customer segment, which are the advertisers. And in there, so that channel is through Google AdWords, and the customers that we also, where all of us are Google's value proposition, because our searches have been recorded by Google, and that's the database that Google serves as advertisers. And the key resources are us users, and obviously it gets advertising revenue, and the other activities, infrastructure activities and cost remains the same. So it has got two segments, two customer segments, the internet users and advertisers. Obviously it has got more segments, more complex, but this is the simplest form of how Google has exploited the business model in its favor. So this is another video on how you can compete on business model, just a couple of minutes.
Some of today's most successful companies understand that the competitive game is increasingly playing out between superior business models, in addition to the traditional battle between new products, technologies, and services. Let's analyze the 4 levels of business model strategy. The first level is what we call a level 0 business model strategy. Companies that focus mainly on product, technology, and related services are at level 0. The best of them build great value propositions with a strong product market fit. The companies that compete mainly on better products and value propositions are often oblivious to the fact that they could outcompete others by combining their products with a better business model. Let's call this group the oblivious. Companies that just start to understand the importance of competing on business models usually perform level 1 business model strategies. They use the business model canvas to ask themselves which customers they're targeting, how they're reaching them, how they're acquiring them, how they're earning money from them, what resources, activities, and partners they need to do that, and what's the cost structure. Organizations at this level understand that they need to look at the entire business model and its components, but they use the business model canvas more like a checklist. Let's call these companies the beginners, who understand that products and technology are not enough. They've taken their first step towards competing on business models. Companies that know how to build outstanding business models perform level 2 business model strategies. They know that it's not enough to just cover all the components of a business model. Companies competing at this level have business models with a story in which every single piece of the business model reinforces the others and contributes to the story. A great example is the Nintendo Wii. Beyond the introduction of an innovative product in the game console market, they built a business model with lower costs, more customers, and superior profit margins. They outcompeted their competitors on the business model. An older example is Dell, which disrupted an entire PC market with its business model. Another excellent example is Nespresso. At the center of their business model is a machine that makes single-portioned espresso. But what gets customers to pay 6 to 8 times more for coffee, outperforms their competitors, and produces insane profits is the configuration of their business model. These are true masters. But it gets even better. There are companies that compete on a level 3 business model strategy. They don't just compete on a superior business model, but they already think of new business models while they are successful. These organizations build new business models proactively before a crisis or an industry or technology change forces them to. Sometimes they even self-disrupt or cannibalize their existing business model while they're still successful. These companies are very, very hard to beat. They are practically unstoppable. Examples are Apple and Amazon. They continuously innovate their business model despite their success. These are companies you could call the invincible. You decide where you want to compete. Level 0 strategies focusing solely on great products and value propositions is like competing on training wheels. Level 3 strategies are more like a Ducati monster motorcycle. Guess which one outcompetes the other?
Yeah, so that's, but business, we have to start somewhere. And I think a great starting point would be level 1. If we start at level 1 and then aim to get to level 2 and level 3, that would be great for any organization. So this is another video, and why I wanted to show you this was you can have a great business model, but it's also subjected to the external environment, and more so during this kind of crisis, COVID period, and just a couple of
The 9 business model building blocks of the business model canvas are the elements you have control over. You decide which customers you're targeting, what you're offering them, how you're reaching them, and what resources and activities you need to achieve that. These decisions are part of the business model design process. Of course, no business model is designed in a vacuum. It is designed in an environment, the business model design environment. There will be competitors which have their own business models with strengths and weaknesses. Your customers' needs, jobs, and desires will change over time. Technology trends and legal trends will create opportunities and constraints for your business model. The overall state of the economy, the availability of capital and skilled people might influence the feasibility of your business model. Understanding the business model environment will enable you to design better business models. Competitors are usually a threat to your model. A technology trend can be an opportunity or a threat. The legal context is a design constraint. Ever-changing customer needs must be discovered and addressed. Macroeconomic forces will affect costs, revenues, and more. Masters of business model design understand that it is a continuous dance between adaptations and reconfigurations of the 9 building blocks and the never-ending changes of the business model design environment. How will you adapt to yours?
So see, that's the business. And strange in this time is like we have all the factors affecting us in the same time, all the macroeconomic factors, the Brexit going on, the political factor, the climate, the economic climate, and hence this business model canvas, this is not like an end state. Once you have defined your business model canvas, then it doesn't stay forever. You have to continuously revisit your business model, not only changing or just your customer needs, but also the business outside environment affects your business model, and you have to tweak those business models in order for you to have a great profitable business. So that's all about business model. Now, the business model is delivering value for your business, but at the same time, we need to deliver value for our customers. And so 7 out of 10 products or services fail to meet customer expectations. And why is that? Is a simple reason is a misalignment between the products and services on the market and what customers want. So the value proposition canvas is a lightweight tool to help you define your products and services. And you can, that it helps you articulate your customer needs and build something that your customer really, really want. And so that is in the next session, and it is on 22nd of April. And you got the link to a book here. It'll be a very interesting session, much more than this, the business model canvas, because you had to learn quite a lot, but this is, you have fun case studies. It is an easy exercise going through defining the value proposition for your customers, understanding your customers better. So that's it. And any questions, please? I can't see myself. I can't see the participants. Thank you all for listening. Questions, please.
Hi, everyone. Feel free to drop your questions or comments or observations into the chat function. We've got one here, Raji. Would you agree that you need an effective performance measurement system that not only measures outcomes, but focuses on the causes of those outcomes?
Yes, and who's asking? So when
that's Andrew Watkins, sorry.
Hi, Andrew. So when you when you say performance measurements, what kind of performance are you talking about? Performance measurement systems which is related to human resources, or is your system so working effectively? What is it actually? Can you just expand on that?
Hi, Reggie. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I can't see. One second. If much better if I could see this. Something has happened. I think, Sean, could you make it visible again?
Yeah, if you stop sharing, Raji.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's much better. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, Andrew. Yeah.
Hi there, Reggie. Yeah, I was thinking of how businesses, how managers require insight into the causes of current business problems.
Yeah.
But I'm a management accountant, and not only providing information about current business problems, but managers I speak to want a reliable indication of how changes they are considering will affect profitability in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just about measuring what's happened, it's about accessing information about levels of resources to make future supplies and provide future levels of planned customer service. So there has to be a link, doesn't there, what I would say, between the performance of a business and feeding that back into the strategy so that you can redefine your goals and make adjustments to your business model.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, Andrew. Yeah, and that's what this helps. This business model canvas is this. You know, it is not. That's why everything relates to the customer. Now, I know there are current business problems, but it no longer, for most organizations, reflects the future customer needs. And if everything is built around that, you know, understanding your customer needs, what the customer segments and whom you're going to serve, then that will come into this. So your current business problem might be totally current, you're solving might be totally irrelevant if you change your business model direction. If you're the performance measurement system is not just about your kind of current performance. It has to take into future customer needs. Otherwise, you have an business model that's totally ineffective. That doesn't work.
It's the company's ability to innovate and adapt, isn't it? It's the changing market conditions that will determine its ability to return future profits. Yeah, it's culture.
Yeah, it is. And why the business model helps is it's not like it's quite simple. You know, you say, oh, I've got these products and services, I want to serve a customer. But there are kind of, when you see the 9 building blocks, they are so interrelated. A simple tweak in one of those building blocks, you know, could give you a slight edge over your competitors. So you're not saying you are an accounting management firm. But then if you look on the side, you know, if you can either say, okay, channels are something common. People are switching to online channels. This is the way they deliver things. But then there are other things which you can change. Your relationship with your customer. Are you going to have like a more personal or thing, or combination of personal or dedicated thing? Who your partners are going to be? And is that a tweak with the, you know, you could do with your you know, cost structure, even the cost, you know, the revenue stream you could change. You know, there are kind of innovations in that. So the innovation is not just your value proposition related. the tweaks in each of the building blocks will kind of enhance your business model, and you can deliver a better value proposition.
Sounds great.
Yeah. So any other questions?
Nothing else on the chat at the minute. I'm happy to open up the microphones. If anyone has anything that they want to do, you feel free to just take your mic off mute and jump in.
So one thing I wanted to mention was this, I actually do this in the form of workshop. So it's a one-day workshop where you can actually have your, so the first session is all about your business model. We go through it, and then you build your business model during the first half day. And then the second session, you build your value proposition. So at the end of the day, you have your business model and your value proposition ready for the next stage, which is testing. So that workshop will be kind of, I think it's ideal if you can do it face-to-face workshop. So probably June or July, when everything opens up, I'll let you know when that happens. And yeah, it's a great opportunity to work on your business model.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Raji. And you're going to include some details in the post-event email as well, aren't you? So
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Get those out to everyone. Well, thank you, everyone. If there's no further questions, all that remains is for me to say thank you so much to HK Advisory. Thank you so much to Raji for hosting. And thank you to all of you for attending.
Thank you very much for attending. Thank you. Thanks from me as well.
Thanks, Raji. That was really good.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.